She walked in chains, but the chains were not heavy. The truth was heavier. The Galactic Court was never quiet. It was always buzzing with voices, judges, lawyers, guards, and machines. But today, something changed. The room fell silent. Even the sound of her recyclers felt too loud. The giant iron doors at the far end began to move. Slowly, loudly, everyone turned to look. She entered. A human, a woman, barefoot. Her clothes torn, but her head held high. Metal chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles. They clinked with every step, echoing through the grand marble hall. 2 armed alien guards flanked her, both nearly 7 feet tall, their armor shining blue under the courtroom lights. But strangely, their grip on her arms wasn't tight. In fact, they looked nervous. Her name was Alira. She was called a war criminal, a murderer, a rebel. But the way she walked, calm, steady, fearless, made people forget what they had read about her. High above, in the judges' circle, 12 alien judges sat watching, each one from a different empire. The elder of Vultal raised one scaly brow. The Sand Counselor of Zar clicked his fingers on his glowing tablet. The judge of Valaria, floating orb of gas, dimmed slightly, as if unsettled. Alira didn't look at them. She looked straight ahead, as if the entire galaxy wasn't watching. The announcer, a robotic drone, floated down and recited her crimes. Name, Alira Dorn. Species, human. Crimes, high treason, galactic sabotage, murder of a diplomatic envoy, theft of protected tech, and igniting the Valari conflict. Punishment upon conviction, public disintegration. The crowd whispered. Reporters clicked their holocameras. People from every species leaned forward to see her better. But still, Alira showed no emotion. Not fear, not anger, not regret, only calm. The guards led her to the trial platform in the center. They tried to lock her chains to the metal floor, but as they bent down, they paused. One of them looked at her, confused. His 3 eyes blinked fast. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked softly. He didn't reply. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was a knowing smile, like someone who had already seen the ending of the story. Judge Marin of the Krell Empire banged his electric gavel. Begin the trial. But before the prosecutor could speak, something odd happened. The courtroom lights flickered. A soft hum began vibrating under the floor. Nobody else seemed to notice except the guards beside Alira. One of them took a step back. The chains glowed faintly, not red, not blue, but gold, like old, ancient gold that only exists in forgotten temples. A murmur rose in the crowd. The chains that were supposed to hold her were reacting to her, as if obeying her. One of the judges leaned forward. "Deactivate the restraints," he ordered. The lead guard tried. He pressed the remote device on his wrist. Nothing happened. Alira whispered, "They're not yours to control." The room turned cold. One of the alien lawyers dropped his datapad. A child from the audience asked loudly, "Is she magic?" No one laughed. Suddenly, the air around Alira shimmered. A pulse like a heartbeat tripled through the room. Machines short-circuited for a split second. One judge's hover chair lost balance before stabilizing again. And yet, she stood still. The oldest judge, a crystal entity known as Rauexer, spoke at last. "You were brought here in chains. I walked here in them," Alira said, voice steady. "Do you deny the crimes?" She looked up, meeting the judge's multifaceted crystal face. "I deny the lies, but I don't deny what I did. I just wonder if the court is ready to hear why I did it." The judges looked at each other. She continued, "You think I came here to beg, to defend myself, but that's not why I'm here." One alien shouted, "Then why are you here?" Alira looked around the room. Her eyes were not human anymore. They had something ancient in them, something wilder. "To tell the truth," she said, "and if truth isn't welcome here, then I will leave with something else." The lights flickered again, and this time, no one blamed the power grid. They sat above all. But for the first time, they looked small. The Galactic Court was built to impress, to intimidate. Its ceilings reached so high, they disappeared into starlight. And above all, in the center dome, was the judges' circle, a floating ring where 12 alien judges ruled over all disputes across the galaxy. Each judge was a symbol of their empire's pride and power. But today, pride was cracking. They stared down at the woman in chains, Alira. A human, yes, but there was something about her presence that pulled at their nerves like static in the air. Before a storm, the circle spun slowly as each judge took their turn to observe her. But none dared speak first. Judge Karluan of the Drakari Empire, a serpent-like being of molten rock, was the first to break the silence. "She does not kneel," he hissed. "She does not need to," replied Mavari, the telepathic aquatic queen from the planet Orolun. Her voice echoed not in sound, but in thought. "She knows something we don't." Judge Velmir, a creature of metal and mist, flickered between forms as he reviewed the evidence logs. The human records are incomplete. Entire logs missing. Security footage lost. That should be impossible. Nothing in the room was impossible anymore. Only Judge Lyrax, the oldest among them, sat perfectly still, made of living crystal. His body pulsed in colors that only a few species could understand. And now his pulse was red, a color of warning. "I have seen this before," Lyrax said slowly. The others turned. He continued, 200 cycles ago. A war, a child born in the ashes of an orbital bombing. That child had eyes like hers. A chill ran across the courtroom. Alira looked up. "You remember me?" The crystal judge didn't blink. "I remember the fear you left behind at this." Judge Kazek, a brutish, four-armed being from the Warg Dominion, slammed his fist on the console. "Enough of this myth. This is a trial, not a legend." But even his voice didn't feel strong anymore. Alira's chains rattled lightly as she turned her head to him. Her voice was soft. "If it helps you sleep better, then call it a trial." In the shadows behind the judges, the archivist floated a neural drone assigned to record the truth. It blinked, once, then twice, then powered down, failing to store even a second more. The court's systems were breaking. The judges tried to ignore it. Judge Velmir switched to hologram mode and spoke toward the audience. "This human is dangerous not because of her strength, but because of what follows her. Silence, rebellion, uncertainty. These are her weapons." Judge Mavari spoke again in their minds. "Perhaps she is not here to be judged. Perhaps she is here to judge us." At that, the entire court went quiet again. And then, Alira spoke. "Do you know what your empires have in common?" she asked. "Fear. You all sit above the stars, ruling with power and law. But the moment someone walks in without fear, your towers begin to shake." Judge Karluan's molten tail twitched. Judge Lyrax's glow dimmed further. Alira continued. "I've seen what lies beyond your borders, what the outer worlds whisper, what they plan. You think I'm your enemy." She looked directly into the recording orb that broadcasted live across all systems. "I'm your mirror." The judges froze, and at that moment, the feed cut off. Galactic networks failed. The court's shield powered down for the first time in a century. Panic stirred in the outer halls. She hadn't moved. She hadn't touched a weapon. And yet, power shifted in her direction. Asterisk. They named her a criminal. She answered with a story the galaxy wasn't ready to hear. The lights came back slowly, shakily. The court systems flickered to life like a dying machine refusing to die. In the silence, the voice of the chief prosecutor, an insectoid alien named Grask, sliced through the air like a blade. His voice was dry, sharp, and without warmth. "Begin the reading of charges," he announced, standing tall with his 6 legs clacking against the marble floor. But no one cheered. No one clapped. Instead, they listened with quiet unease. Grask raised a data rod high. It glowed red. Alira Dorn, human, origin Terra 5, now classified as a neutral war zone. "You are accused of..." He paused, as if even he needed to take a breath. 39 confirmed assassinations, destruction of diplomatic vessels, unlawful possession of Relatier technology, incitement of planetary rebellion on Zintheta, unauthorized human biomodifications, theft of classified war keys, sabotage of a peace summit that cost 500 alien lives. The crowd gasped, but Alira didn't move, not even a blink. And the final charge, Grask hissed. The triggering of the Valari Collapso war that cost 9 systems their light. Whispers returned. Murmurs, fear. She started the Volari War. She stole the relic tech. She's a weapon. The last voice didn't come from the audience. It came from a young cadet. Standing by the wall, barely 20. He whispered. But it felt loud. Like a truth that made even the air taste different. A weapon, he repeated. Alira turned slowly and looked at him. Their eyes met, and for a second, the cadet lowered his head. Not in fear, but in respect. Grask continued, now louder, trying to regain control of the room. These are not rumors. These are facts. Every charge is supported by witness testimony, battlefield data, and satellite archives. Alira spoke for the first time since the charges began. Do you want me to deny them? Her voice was low, steady, not defensive, almost bored. Grask blinked. This is not a negotiation. Human, this is a trial. Alira stepped forward. Her chains dragged with a slow screech across the floor. Then I will speak the truth since. You've all worked so hard to bury it. Judge Velmir leaned in. You admit the crimes? She smiled faintly. No, I claim them. Gasps erupted again. Alira raised her bound hands. I did destroy that ship because it was carrying enslaved children to be auctioned in the Spire markets. I did steal that tech because your allies were using it to erase minds. And I did end the Volari summit because it wasn't peace they were planning. It was a trap. For my people. Her voice grew louder. You sit there, dressed in justice, wrapped in law. But you forgot what law is for. You forgot justice serves the living, not the powerful. She turned to the crowd. You've called me a criminal. But I only broke the rules you made to protect yourselves. I saved who you were willing to sacrifice. Her words echoed off the metal walls. Some aliens looked away. Others clenched their jaws. Even Judge Lyrax's crystal body flickered between uncertain colors. Grask was fuming. You twist everything. You glorify your actions. You think you're a hero? Alira looked him in the eye. No. Heroes obey. I disobeyed. That makes me something older than a hero. She stepped forward again. I am human. And humans remember how to burn empires down when they forget their soul. The lights pulsed once more, and far away, in some dark corner of the galaxy. A resistance signal was sent, encrypted, untraceable, but carrying 3 words. She has spoken. Asterisk data does not lie, but data can be erased, replaced, or worse, believed. The courtroom dimmed again, not from system failure, but by design. Judge Velmir initiated protocol. Witness X, a sealed presentation of visual data admissible only to trials marked as planetary threat level. A hologram bloomed at the center of the courtroom. It displayed a battlefield, blackened skies, flames, collapsing towers. Aliens screamed in panic. Ships fell like stones. In the middle of it all stood one figure, alone. Alira. Her armor was damaged. Her face was streaked with blood. In her hand, she held a weapon that did not belong to any known species. She looked wounded, but unshaken. Play sequence for 7A, ordered Grask, his mandibles clicking. The scene changed. It showed Alira entering the summit of Volari, what should have been a peace meeting. 12 ambassadors stood waiting. She walked in, and then the screen glitched. For a fraction of a second, something appeared. Not in the center, in the background. A masked alien figure pulling a blade. Then, static. The video resumed. A blast, fire, screams. Stop playback, shouted Judge Mavari, suddenly alarmed. Grask hissed. What are you doing? Rewind 10 seconds, the judge commanded. The frame was pulled back, paused. There, she pointed. Enhance. The court systems zoomed in. That figure previously unnoticed was holding a detonator. Not Alira. And the timestamp was wrong. It predated her entrance by 14 seconds. The room froze. She didn't cause the explosion. Someone whispered. She walked into it. Someone else added. Grask's hands twitched. This is tampered. Alira finally spoke. It's not tampered. It's just truth buried under your fear. She looked up at the judges. You never wanted to know who set the charges. You just needed a name big enough to take the fall. Silence, roared Judge Kazak. But no one was listening to him now. The next evidence log activated. Footage from a mining colony. Children in cages. Alien traffickers negotiating in credits. Then Alira's entry. She didn't shoot first. She opened the cages. She gave the children something to eat. Only when a guard raised his weapon did she fire back. The screen faded. No one said a word. The last piece of evidence blinked on. This time, it was a voice recording from a high-ranking galactic general, now deceased. He was speaking to someone. She warned us, told us the summit had been compromised. We ignored her, because she was human, because she was right. The courtroom had no walls anymore. It had no sides, only silence and a question. Who was really on trial here? Alira looked around. You showed the evidence. You expected guilt. She paused, but all it did was show your fear of the truth. Asterisk, the court wanted the truth, but the truth had its own plan and it came wearing a familiar face. The courtroom hadn't recovered from the evidence. The lights were on. The judges sat tall. The guards stood alert. But beneath the surface, something had cracked. Not an Alira. In them. Grask stood rigid, frozen mid-gesture. The data logs, the hidden recordings, the letter from the child, none of it was supposed to survive. Someone had leaked it. And worse, someone inside the court had helped. Suddenly, the holo walls shimmered. A new signal forced itself into the chamber and authorized. Encrypted, untraceable, a ghost in the system. It played automatically. A voice spoke. Calm, male, familiar. They'll paint her as a killer. But she saved my command post. Without her, none of us would have survived the Valari strike. You want to know the truth? Look inside your own files if you dare. Gasps echoed again. The voice belonged to Commander Vrex, once hailed a galactic war hero. He had been declared dead last cycle. His testimony had been erased from public record. But now, it was back, broadcasted across the court, and more dangerously, across the outer colonies. The betrayal wasn't Alira's. It was the court's. Judge Lyrax froze, pulsing faintly in a dark gray hue. Shame. In his crystal language. Judge Kazakh slammed his armored fist on the console. Shut it down. But the signal had already done its work. The screen switched one last time. A new image. A classified document signed by 5 current judges ordering Alira's death before her capture. Dated 7 days before her arrest. Even. The guards took a step back now. One of them slowly removed his helmet. He was young, barely older than the cadet from earlier. His voice trembled. They were going to kill her. No trial, no defense. Alira tilted her head toward the judges. You never wanted justice, she said quietly. You wanted silence. Judge Mavari looked down at her hands. This can't be true. It is. Judge Velmir said softly, the glow in his mechanical chest flickering. For once, we weren't the architects of this court, he added. We were just its mask. A new hum filled the air, this time coming from the audience. Low murmurs turned into roars. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore. They were choosing. And they were not choosing the judges. The betrayal had been revealed. But Alira didn't smile. She looked tired, as if she had waited too long for this moment. And now that it was here, it didn't feel like victory, because she hadn't come to win. She had come to show them who they really were. And now, they knew. They gathered to judge her, but one by one, they began to wonder if they were the ones being judged. The courtroom was no longer a place of order. It had become a storm. Voices clashed. Security officers argued. The judges stared into empty screens, their commands ignored, their authority unraveling. The system they built based on fear, silence, and power was breaking in front of them. And Alira? She stood still at the center of it all. Her chains hung loose, now unlocked, but not by force. By choice. No one remembered unshackling her. No one dared to ask who had. Judge Lyrax finally spoke. His crystalline voice strained. The evidence has raised questions, but a decision must still be made. Grask shouted, she's manipulating you. This is a trial, not a revolution. Alira turned toward him. I didn't build this courtroom. You did, she said softly. And you forgot what it meant to stand inside it with truth. Judge Velmir powered up the ancient protocol, a forgotten mode of judgment, older than any current galactic law, one where each judge must cast their vote openly, in front of the accused. No hiding. No delay. One by one, the votes began. Judge Karluan, guilty, his molten skin rippled with fear, but his voice remained firm. Judge Mavari, not guilty. She looked into Alira's eyes and whispered, "Forgive us." Judge Velmir, not guilty. He powered down his terminal afterward as if ready to leave it all behind. Judge Kazek, guilty. His pride held strong but his hands trembled. Judge Lyrax, abstain. His crystal glow dimmed. I no longer know what justice means. The other judges followed. 5 more votes were cast. When the final tally appeared, the courtroom held its breath. Guilty, 5 not guilty, 6 abstain. 1 Alira exhaled, not in relief, but in confirmation. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She looked at the guards, and they lowered their weapons. Then something happened, something that would never be forgotten. She stepped forward to the center of the platform and raised her hands. From her palms, a golden holosigil appeared. It pulsed with an ancient seal, one lost during the human exodus centuries ago, one only used by those who held authority above the court itself. The symbol was older than the empires in that room. The judges froze. Even the crowd went silent. "What is that?" a reporter whispered. Alira answered without speaking. Her voice transmitted directly through the court's neural net, bypassing all systems. Every living being in the chamber felt it, not just heard it. "I am not here to be judged. I am here to remind you that humanity never gave up its seat at this table. We simply watched while you forgot who we are." Then the sigil vanished, and the courtroom lights returned, bright, whole, clean, for the first time. No one dared to stop her as she walked down the central aisle. No guards, no laws, no chains. Only silence, and the quiet realization that judgment had already come and it had spared no one. Justice didn't arrive with fire. It arrived with footsteps, one by one, walking away from the ashes of false power. The great iron doors of the Galactic Court opened once more. This time, there was no announcement, no sirens, no guards' information. Just the echo of footsteps. Alira walked out alone. No chains, no weapons, no need. Behind her, the 12 thrones sat abandoned, empty, cold. One had shattered, completely cracked down the center, as if it could no longer bear the weight of the lies. Once seated on it, reporters stood frozen. Cameras hovered, but didn't zoom. Even the automated systems seemed hesitant to record what they saw, because it wasn't just a human walking out. It was history. The symbol she had revealed still glowed faintly in the minds of every living witness, etched into memory like a scar carved by truth. People would speak of this day in hushed voices. Some would call her a traitor. Others would call her a savior. But no one would dare call her weak. As she stepped down the marble staircase into the courtyard, something unexpected happened. The crowd parted. Aliens from different species stepped aside without command. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Children clutched their guardians' hands tighter, but not out of fear, out of awe. And then one figure stepped forward, a Valari elder whose son had died in the summit explosion. Her eyes were tired, hollow, but she raised her hand and bowed. Not in submission, in recognition. The ripple began from there. One by one, heads bowed across the plaza. Alira didn't bow back. She only placed a hand on her chest where the human heart beats. Then, without a word, she walked toward the edge of the courtyard where a transport ship waited. Its hatch opened silently. She paused once before entering, looked back. At the court, at the people, at the galaxy that had tried to chain her and failed. Then she whispered, not to anyone in particular. This wasn't justice. This was a warning. Next time, send better gods. And she was gone. The doors of the ship closed. The engines lit. And the legend of the woman who walked into the trial in chains but walked out with their heads began to spread across star systems. Like wildfire on a dead world finally breathing again. She didn't just survive judgment. She redefined it.